go ahead and get our meeting started. 1.0, Dr. Thomason, roll call. Or sorry, I call it to order. Now 2.0, roll call. Look at it.
President Reese, please let the record show that all board members are present tonight.
Thank you.
Me too. President Reese has turned over the microphone to myself for a moment of silence. Ms. Denise Standage, our former board member, passed away about an hour ago. And our hearts are heavy, and it will be, it put things in perspective, and I'm sure some of you saw me in the work study. We were on our phones, and those were some of the things we were attending to, and her family and her friends wanted us to know. They actually knew we had a meeting tonight, and they wanted us to be able to respectfully share that information. Mrs. Standage served on our board 10 years, I believe. She made this quilt with her mother, actually, and Ms. Standage was with us from just probably, 10 years ago with just 3-4 schools, and she gave her heart and soul through indifferences or agreements or disagreements. And I had an opportunity to visit with her before Christmas break. And she was in good spirits, and her husband and her family was in a good place. And she felt like she was able to move on and leave everyone with the thoughts and things that she was able to go with. Those of you who know Miss Amy Jorgensen is an involved parent. She was able to work with Miss Denise Standage and recorded her life history on the computer and on video. So that will be neat to have. But we just wanted to share that with you, and I know many of you spent time with her. Some of you may have not met her, but for myself being here and Ms. Reese, we've been able to work with her, and it's different when you're able to work with board members, although we might all be different. In some things we agree on, some things we don't, but her passion and her intention to do what was honorable and best for kids in the community was truly iconic. She took a lot of heat for things, but once you understood where she was coming from and her passion for kids and truly for education, no matter how we could get it to the kids, she tried her hardest to send that message of the importance of education. So we will let the community and staff know of any future arrangements and services that we're able to attend, and so our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family at this time during our moment of silence.
And tonight we have members from the Boy Scout Troop 832 who's going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Four point zero, I move that we approve the agenda.
Second?
Any questions, discussions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, 5.0, request to speak to the governing board. We value input from our constituents. This time has been set aside for anyone from the audience who wishes to address the board. Please remember this is not an appropriate venue to evaluate, discuss, or criticize district personnel. Policy KEB provides a process for complaints about personnel. Speakers should be aware that false statements about individuals may result in civil liability. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. If anyone has not filled out a form and would like to speak, you may see our new board secretary, Mrs. Reach. She's kind of taken it on her own tonight with a little support with Miss Walker. When you come up and speak to the board, can you please speak clearly and directly into the microphone so that you can be heard? I will start with June Blaine.
Good evening. Can you hear me all right? President Reese, board members, Dr. Thomason, cabinet members, thank you for allowing me the time to speak this evening. My name is June Blaine. I am a teacher in the district and currently the president of the Higley Education Association. I'm here today as a representative of our association members as well as employees of the Higley Unified School District. My goal this evening is to thank the board for thinking carefully about our district's core values and strategic anchors as contracts, salaries, and benefits are discussed. More specifically, the strategic anchor to value people. This strategic anchor is a promise to current and future employees of our district. I believe that to value people, we have to look beyond the spreadsheets, FTEs, and dollar signs. It is important to consider the person behind the name on the contract, the person who will pour their heart out into every student who crosses their path, the person who gives a Herculean effort to try to balance work, family, and self, the person who wants to work for the Higley Unified School District, the same person who could potentially feel that they would be more valued in another district. Our district needs to continue to attract and retain highly qualified employees. To continue to retain staff, let's make them feel valued and attract new employees by continuing to find ways to set ourselves apart from the others. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Heather, I apologize if I mispronounce it. Is it Balch? Okay.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? Good evening, board members. I'm Heather Balch. I'm a speech language pathologist for the Higley Unified School District, and I've been employed with Higley since 2002, so quite a long time. Most of that time I have spent as a part-time employee. Over the past 9 years, I've been part of the preschool evaluation team. When we started this team, I've been the only speech pathologist on that team. I worked just 2 days a week because we were small. And as we've grown, my FTE has changed to accommodate the growth of the district. So I worked for 2 days a week for about a year, and then I went up to 2.5 days a week, and then I am now at 3 days a week. And I'm able to do my job, and I do it well. I love these families and these children that I work with, and I enjoy that. So Ms. Whitener had mentioned that we need to look at staffing the the position and not for the person, I wanted to let you know that as a person, I have changed my staffing to meet the growing needs of the district. I was pleased to hear about the recommendation to grandfather in the current employees and for us to continue earning leave. And I would like to thank the board if you would approve that recommendation. I considered not speaking, but I thought that I would like to offer you my views. All surrounding districts prorate general leave to their part-time certified staff members, and I would like HUSD to do that as well so that we can continue to attract highly qualified employees. There are clear differences between classified and certified staff and what each position holds. Classified and certified staff positions are not equal. They are actually on separate salary schedules, and the requirements that each of us has to have is very different. As a certified staff member, I hold a certificate through the Arizona Department of Education. I also hold a certificate through Arizona Department of Health Services, and I hold a certificate through ASHA. And so I just want you to know that as a part-time employee, I truly value the ability to accommodate my family when they're sick or if I am sick. And given the small number of part-time staff that we have here, I think it's a really good plus for us as a district to say that we value you. I know that HUSD strives to provide exceptional learning experiences, and we do that through highly qualified staff. I just would like to thank you for that consideration and think of all of us involved. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you. Angela Colbert?
Good evening, President Reese and governing board members. I've been a resident of Higley for 16 years and an educator for 18 years. The district hired me for a .6 position on the preschool evaluation team 6 years ago. The position has remained .6 per the district and the job requirements. I have not requested that specific to my needs, but it's for the needs of the students that we serve. I am so grateful and appreciative that the recommendation is to grandfather all of us in. I truly appreciate that. As a teacher advocate, I thought I would still speak my concerns for future teachers or educators in Higley. Many of our special education positions, like occupational therapists, physical therapists, are designated less than full-time per the district recommendations, just for the needs of those positions. There are distinct differences between classified or hourly and salaried or certified positions. If you look at our current postings, the requirements for classified are 18 years of age and in some cases a high school diploma. In comparison, the certified positions must have at minimum a bachelor's degree, appropriate certification, and or endorsements, as well as being highly qualified in the subject area. Contracts and obligations are identical for full and part-time certified staff, except for the reduced hours, which is reflected in the salary being prorated. For instance, we are all evaluated twice a year with the same evaluation tool. We must meet the state mandated 180 recertification hours every 7 years. That's not different if you're part-time or full-time. Our days often start early and late and flow into the weekends in order to best serve our students and families. In addition, Chandler and Queen Creek provide general leave to .5 and above. Gilbert, Mesa, J.O. Combs, Tempe, Scottsdale, and Paradise Valley provide it to all certified staff. Neighboring Santan Charter School, Legacy Traditional Academy, and Enterprise also provide this benefit. The current policy in Higley matches the industry standard around us and should not be compromised for future educators. Please consider maintaining the policy as HUSD continues to provide an exceptional learning environment with exceptional certified staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. 6.0, Dr. Thomason, Superintendent's Report.
Yes, thank you, President Reese. At this time, I would like to welcome to the podium Mr. Dan Cover so he can present his Points of Pride Awards for the elementary school Cortina.
Thank you very much. President Reese, I still have to get used to that. President Reese, Governing Board, Superintendent Dr. Thomason, and Cabinet, thank you for being here today. And all of you, thank you for being here today. It's always exciting when I get to show off some of our best and brightest at Cortina. Today, I am going to start off with, by the way, this is Mrs. Michelson, one of our sixth grade teachers who so kindly volunteered to help me out with flowers today. Mrs. Lindsay Head, please come on up. Miss Lindsay Head is our Volunteer of the Month for February, and I'd like to congratulate her. She has stepped into so many roles that I don't think she knew she was getting into this year, as well as the end of last year as well, and mainly this year. She is our PTO secretary, and she is a jack of all trades. She does or Jill of all trades, and she does everything around our campus. She's there at every event. She's helping us out with daddy-daughter dances, with collecting money, with our PTO website. Her husband is there right along with her and her kiddo, so I'd like to also recognize, if you guys want to stand up, I'm sure everybody wants to see you guys as well. So thank you for everything that you do, Lindsay. Stand up here, we got to get a picture. All right, next up, I'd like to invite our Student of the Month up, Miss Angelina Thompson. You'll notice that Angelina came up with something here. This is actually an award that she recently got from the MLK Reflect Award that she recently got. Dr. Thomason and I actually attended the ceremony. She got second place out of over 1,200 students, did they say, in the art contest that she did. She also not only received second place in that contest, but she also received second place in the essay contest as well. I promised her she wouldn't have to read that tonight. So she did bring her art, though. So congratulations and thank you for everything you do for Cortina. You got to stay up here. Next up, we have our classified member of the month, Miss J.M. or Jody Muller, as very few at our campus call her. Come on up, J.M. And J.M. is a blessing to me. When I came in 2 years ago last year, she just helped me with everything that I didn't know what to do in Higley School District. She is my support whenever I need to talk to someone, whenever I need to know what the procedure is. I go straight to JM. If she doesn't have the answer, she'll find the answer for me. So, JM, thank you for everything you do for me and for our school. And last but not least, our Teacher of the Month, Mrs. Burke. Come on up, Miss Lisa Burke. Mrs. Burke is a sixth grade teacher at our school. She is our team lead. She is our English language arts block teacher. And many people in this room, including Mr. Zane here, had Mrs. Burke last year and graduated from her. Our students love going to Mrs. Burke's room. She's the class on campus that all of them like to hang out. I'm sure Angelina would attest to that. And she just makes learning fun. And that's what we want in our campus. That's what we want in our teachers, is to make learning fun. The kiddos want to come to her room. She helps out with everything on campus. If I ever need any support, she's always there to help me out. So thank you, Lisa. And that's our members of the month. You guys have to stay up here for a picture now.
President Reese, members of the board, our Point of Pride recipient for educational services is ill tonight, so we'll bring her back for the next board meeting. At this time, we want to look at upcoming events. Monday would be a holiday. That's going to be President's Day, so we'll have that day off. And the next board meeting is coming up on February 24th with the work study at 5:30 and the board meeting at 6:30. Then on February 29th, the board and superintendent would be invited to the East Valley Boards Consortium dinner, and that's going to be at Tempe Elementary School this month. And then Wednesday, March 2nd, we will have a special board meeting here at the district office for a short piece on benefits. Then March 7th through the 18th, we'll have our spring break, followed by our March board meeting on the 23rd, starting at 5:30, and the board meeting at 6:30. And that would be the superintendent's report for the night.
Thank you. I also just wanted to mention that Coronado Elementary is celebrating Chinese New Year, and that will be on Wednesday, February 17th at Coronado Elementary from 5 p.m. to 7:30. The cost of tickets will be $8 per adult, $6 per child. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And then I wanted to mention on February 23rd is the HUSD Elementary Honor Band performing at the Higley Center for Performing Arts at 6:30. And that is a lot of our schools performing that night. So if you can make it, that would be great. In addition to that, for board comments, I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Wojtovich, who attended, I had to get this in before he did, who attended Chick-fil-A and Coronado's restaurant night and did a frozen t-shirt contest with Dr. Wong. And
things we do.
yes, so unfortunately, I was there after that happened, but I heard there are pictures, so.
It was for a good cause.
I'd like
Thank
to
you so
see
much.
that. And then I attended the Williamsfield Arts Fest for their performing and visual arts last night. They're also having it tonight. Lots of great performances, very informative. We have outstanding students who are performing in all areas, and not just performing, but competing and doing well. I was informed their theater is now competing and they have placed in these competitions for theater. So I was informed of that last night watching their little skits. So that was very, very good. We're looking at getting more information on all of our schools that are competing and how they're doing. So that was exciting. Anyone else have board comments? Now that I took
Took
it all away from you. I had to have it.
You have pictures, so I'm not saying anything.
Anyone else? All right. Then we will move on. 7.0, consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Support. Well, I wasn't.
I make a motion that we approve consent agenda items 7.0 through 7.5.
Okay, Mr. Wojtovich, you second that?
Yes, I did.
All right. Any discussions, questions, comments? Nope. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Along with our consent agenda, we do had I apologize. We did have some gifts and donations. We received $3,000 from Trilogy, the creative designers, through Barbara Jester, and that's very nice of them to donate to our district, as well as $2,000 from Centennial PTO for books in their library. So thank you very much for for those donations. 8.0, we don't have any old business. 9.0, action items. So 9.1 is our information item on the monthly financial report for January 2016. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Buse? We receive a monthly report detailing our financials, and it's just a monthly report. All right. 9.2. For
Mrs. Reese,
Mrs. Whitener.
I move that we approve the food service meal price changes for the 2016-17 school year.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So this is to increase our meal price.
President Reese,
Yes.
I just wanted to reiterate, we had the USDA requirements. Is this now the 4th or 5th year that we were required to increase it a certain rate for a certain amount of time? And is this part of the new ESSA or totally separate?
They're separate. This is
Okay.
for the National School Lunch Program requirements for USDA.
And what year are we in? And I mean, I assume they put a 5-year block on it, but I assume once the 5 years is over, they're going to increase it again, right?
It's actually separate from the food service management company that we're with. This
Correct.
is actually the USDA's
Correct.
requirement. It doesn't have anything to do with SFE. So they just provide the food. Do you understand?
President Reese, Mrs. Whitener, at one time we were behind because we hadn't increased our prices. We are now at the point to where we are caught up with the deficit that we were in, but there are still increases for inflation every year. We're now at the inflation increase point.
Okay, so we're not making that up anymore.
That is correct. We have made that up. That was made up the last year, and at this point forward, we will be following the recommendation, and there's usually a leeway between 2 and 10 cents for a percentage increase for inflation that they would require us. That's how we got behind in the past, that we didn't make our inflation increases. And so we increased every year to get caught up. And now that we're caught up, we would still need to continue with the inflation increases set forth by the federal government.
And every local or every LEA has the same set price, correct?
That is correct.
And so if we didn't approve it,
We could lose some of our funding from the federal level.
just as a scenario, meaning we kind of have to.
However, this time we are not doing the 10-cent increase, which we have in the past to catch up.
That is
This
correct.
is a 5-cent increase. So it is actually a smaller increase than we have been having to do in the past.
And as we move forward, it would be an increase set by the inflation rate.
President Reese,
Yes, Mr. Little.
has the food service vendor done an analysis on at what price point students stop buying lunch and it no longer their volume drops enough that they can't provide the service?
I don't believe we have done that analysis, but I can reach out to SFE, our vendor, and ask them to do an analysis on that.
I do know, at least for students that are close to me, there's a point where I think some students and parents feel like the price and the value just isn't there, so they'd rather bring their lunch. So as the price keeps going up and the quality stays the same, it becomes an economic problem for the vendor.
I would agree with that. I'll reach out to SFE and ask them to do that analysis.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion carries 4-0. 9.3. This is to approve campus staff additions for the 2016-17 school year. The recommendation is to approve 47 FTE additional teachers for class size reduction, 6 FTE for elementary gifted resource teachers, 2 FTE for high school counselors, appoint 4 FTE additional administrator at each high school, and restoring the lunch aid staffing.
President Reese,
Mrs. Whitener.
I move that the governing board approves the campus staffing additions for the 2016-2017 school year.
Second.
So this particular recommendation is coming directly from passing our override and the survey from our community saying that the reduction of class size is what is important.
That is correct. We do have some allocation in there for future growth also, and so we'll be working with this schooling staff to find out where that extra allocation. So we do have some staff set aside for future growth that we'll be utilizing that as we move forward.
President Reese,
Mrs. Whitener.
I just wanted to add more specifically within that, there are 2 additional teachers for the elementary specials for additional sections. And restore the lunch aid funding. Just that one piece was left out. And as far as the dollar amount, it's $3 million that we have. We've had previous discussions and work studies regarding this recommendation, as far as keeping hold to the override recommendations of class size, keeping the specials we do have. So if we are growing, those are those 2 additional sections for specials, and the gifted program as well. And the high school counselors, a definite need to service our students. We talked about the what's ideal is 1 to 300, and we are at 1 to 600. So I know our students will definitely benefit from these positions. So thank you, Dr. Nance and Cabinet, and those who worked on these specific numbers and these additions.
I understand in reference to I saw the numbers, additional staffing. My concern is in reference to the staffing, I see that there's 2 specials. Perhaps at a work study we can have in the near future, President Reese, is my concern as we're bringing more staff into the schools, that we are continuing to have the specials travel. I get invitations from specials, and I see they're at 4 schools, they're at 3 schools. How do we service our students like that? And now we're bringing 47 more teachers into our schools, and where is that conversation in reference to the scheduling of our specials? And perhaps we can have a work study soon, so we can have that, because I know a number of people in the community have asked me that question. We're bringing more teachers, so how are we addressing the specials? So if we could do this at a work study, I'll ask that at the end of our meeting this evening, if that could be something we could have a conversation about.
Yes, President Reese, Mr. Wadovich,
Yeah.
we have a work study next week specifically for some of the special areas that we'll be discussing.
Thank you.
Look at that. How quick we are.
President Reese,
Mr. Little.
I would just like to add, I think we put out to the community to pass an override with, part of that communication was increased class size, more FTEs, additional things that override money would be used for. The community passed the override. The Higley Cabinet has come up with a great proposal to carry out some of those funds that the community has voted for. So and I have not heard from the community that this is a bad idea, that this shouldn't be done. So I think that this is a wonderful thing for the school district, a great use of funds. It's what they were intended to be used for. I do like the idea, Mr. Watovich, of getting down to the details of where these FTEs would be placed and how those resources would be used.
Yeah, that's for sure. So this is a great part of our job, having the override pass, doing the survey, and doing what our community has asked us to do. So with that said, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0. All right, 9.4. This is a first read for amendments to the regulation and complaint form for four policies that concern making and investigating formal student complaints. The district currently has 4 policies that authorize student complaints and investigations. It is JII, student concerns, complaints, and grievances. JB, equal educational opportunity. JICFA, hazing. And JICK, student violence, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. The regulations and reporting forms for the 4 are slightly different, as the complaint forms reflect their having come from ASBA at different times. This proposal makes the process and the complaint form the same in all cases in order to be more efficient and uniformly administered. So this is a first read. We do have the option to, based on our previous change in policy, we do have an option to waive a second read and approve these items. Does anyone have questions, concerns? Do you need them reviewed? So I will make the motion that we approve the regulations for the policies I've just read and that we approve these.
Support.
President Reese.
Mrs. Whitener.
I just have one question. These forms, it's titled student complaint form. Is this something a parent or student would download from the internet and give it to their school administrator?
It would be something that is on the website. There will also be complaint forms available in the school offices. And we wanted to make them uniform so that whatever kind of complaint might be made, that it will work in the same way. And we do have to upload the complaint form that is on the website because it's one of the older forms.
And this is separate than an incident report that an administrator would fill out?
Yes, yes.
So this is only of a student or a parent wanting to put forth a complaint?
This is strictly for student complaints. Now, obviously, a parent can make that report on behalf of a student. There are still other policies that allow complaints that don't have anything to do with day-to-day kids interacting on a campus. But this is for those kind of incidents that someone wants to make a formal complaint. And then there's an investigation process which has to be completed within a certain period of time, and so that it is not overlooked.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Mm-hmm. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 4.0, or 4-0, sorry. Okay, 9.5.
President Reese.
Mr. Little.
I move that we approve the 2016-17 salary increases for the Higley Unified School District staff.
Support.
So what's being proposed is a 3.5% salary increase. Again, this information was coming from the community survey that we needed to do a salary increase for our staff. It also includes longevity bonuses, market equity adjustments for certified, classified, and administrative staff.
Ms. Correct,
President
Mrs. Reese?
Oh, okay.
Dr. Thomason.
If it so pleases the board, we do have that PowerPoint that we went over during the last work study that we were ready and able to show again. And to let the board know these decisions were not made in isolation, and they also go back to last year when we had over 80 community members involved in some of our district reductions, and it does take into account our override commitments for increasing staffing and also putting the certain amount of override money towards raises that we could, and it is also based on some of the survey results. So if it so pleases the board, we would like to show that again. At this time, I would turn it over to Mrs. Sorensen to go over her PowerPoint on employee compensation proposal.
Thank you, Dr. Thomason, President Reese, and members of the board. It'll be take two for you all, but probably take one for several of the members of our audience. Here we go. So everyone gets a piece of the pie. We've got about $2 million that we were working with, and I have broken it down for you on this slide by the different amounts, and really they're the things that Mrs. Reese just read off as well. So a 3.5% increase for all employees, certified market and base salary adjustments, and each one of these things I'll be going into more detail on the slides that follow. Longevity stipends, classified staff marketing and equity adjustments, other certified marketing and equity adjustments, and other certified pay for performance. Be spent with a 3.5% increase for all employees across the board. So this slide lists a couple of examples of what 3.5 looks like for an hourly staff member and a couple of different certified staff members. It's the largest, obviously the largest piece of the pie. I keep turning my mic off instead of hitting the clicker. The next largest piece of the pie is 25% that's going to be allocated to increasing our new base, and our recommendation is to increase it to $38,000. That's going to make us really competitive with our East Valley neighbors. It's not going to put us at the top yet because our neighbors that were already at 37 when we were at 35, darn it, they're going to go to 39 when we go to 38. So that's just a little bit of the nature of that beast. To make those adjustments then, current first-year teachers that are making less than the new base are going to get bumped to the new base plus get 1 year, and I have in parentheses $350. Darn, if only. Because that's the amount that's currently in our hiring formula. We give $350 per year for experience. So we're using that same amount of money. All other current teachers making less than the new base or the market rate, and we'll talk a little bit about that, are going to get bumped to that amount. The market rate includes commensurate years of experience, so at least $350 per year up to 7 years. So potentially second-year teachers will be at $38,700, up to a 7-year teacher has the potential to move to $40,450. And I have some additional examples as we go through. That bump is an additional 1.5% to 3.5%, perhaps even 4% of an increase, depending on what the current salary is. And while I do have some slides with the examples of how those are calculated out, I would just say right here that I do believe there's a little bit of confusion about the 3.5% and where that comes into play. So the 3.5% is going to be applied to the current base salary. So if you're currently making $35,000, you're a first-year teacher, you had no experience, you just have your bachelor's degree, you're making $35,000 in our district, you're first going to get 3.5% on that. And then we see where you end up, and you're going to be less than $38,350, and so you will make up the difference to get them to the $38,350. It might be $1,200, it might be $1,376. There's some smaller amounts like that. The next piece of the pie is divided out for longevity stipends. The longevity stipends will be an additional up to 3% depending on your current salary. The classified staff market adjustments are 6% of the pie. That was based on a market review and also a district equity review. There will be some hourly adjustments via row movement for some groups of employees, and I do have those listed out in a later slide. And then some salary increases also based on equity within the district. So two things, we looked at a market analysis and looked at our current positions and where those positions land in comparison with our neighbor school districts, but really it was districts around the whole entire valley. And we probably have about 5 or 6 employee groups that are significantly below what the current market rate is in other school districts. We're way below the private market in some of those positions, but we really just looked at school districts. And we have several groups that are lower there. Some hourly adjustments via row movement. What I explained to you in the work study session last couple of weeks ago was that we have several different salary schedules that are hanging out there that seem to be somewhat arbitrary, a little bit nebulous, and so we're trying to consolidate the salary schedules, and in doing that it will result in a slight increase for some of our employees. I gave you the example of in order to move our current IT classified staff onto the classified hourly schedule, it will cost us 70 cents to move them over there, so not a whole lot. Bus drivers fall into that same category as well, with having their separate salary schedule that we're trying to consolidate. So that was the market review. That's a little bit of cleanup on the hourly adjustments. And then the district equity review was about looking at a group of employees and the range within that group for people with similar experience, all doing the same job, and trying to close that gap just a little bit with those employee groups. For some staff, that's an additional 5% increase on top of the 3.5, again, depending on their current salary. Got 2 little pieces of the pie left. One of those is some slight increases, again, based on market and equity adjustments. The group that we're looking at here is psychologists, speech pathologists, speech therapists, and our OT, PT staff. For a couple of those folks, it's an additional up to 5% on top of the 3.5% to make that right. And the final little sliver is for middle school and high school counselors in order to give them a pay for performance equivalent to the other certified, they're the certified non-eligible staff. So we're trying to be sure that we give them something that's the equivalent of pay for performance. For some of those, again, an additional 5% increase on top of the 3.5%. So a summary here is that for teachers, 3.5% up to 7% or so total increase for that group. For classified staff. For other certified staff, you see the ranges are fairly similar, 3.5 to 8.5%. And there are several slides in there that were hidden. Can you unhide them? Yep, that's the first one. Thank you. So this is the way that the longevity breaks out. We have 262 current employees that by the end of this school year will have been with the district for 5 years. So they'll receive a $500 longevity stipend. The abbreviations at the bottom, the C is for certified. We have 143 of the 262 are certified, 98 are support staff, and administrators make up 21 of those 262 that will get the $500. The $500 is going to go into their salary. So if they're currently making, we'll just say $40,000, they're going to next year have $40,500. And then if the next year after that we get a 2% raise, it's going to be 2% on top of $40,500. The 10-year amount that we have budgeted for is $750 for 10 years. We have 130 total staff who will have 10 years by the end of this school year. Certified makeup 86, support staff 38, and administrators 6. 15 years is a $1,000 longevity stipend. We have 23 current staff there, 16 certified, 6 support, and 1 administrator. And we have 2 certified staff members who will have been with us for 20 years at the end of this school year, and they have, our budget for that is $1,250. Can you click the next one? Thank you. So I have some samples up here for you. So let's say that we have a 4th-year teacher whose current salary is $36,895. We're going to give them 3.5% on that current salary, which is going to boost them to $38,186. But what we're saying is that for a 4th-year teacher, the current market rate is $39,400. So to get them to that, they're going to get an additional $1,213. So we take the $350 per year times 4 is $1,400. We're putting that $1,400 on top of our new base of $38, and that's how we come to the market rate of $39,400. You click on the next one. Here's another example, a current salary of $39,520. So this 4th-year teacher has probably participated in salary advancement and has turned in credits and earned additional credits. They may have their master's degree. So they're both 4-year teachers, but there's a difference somewhere with their education and what they bring to the table in terms of professional development. So we multiplied their current salary by 3.5%, and that gives them $40,903. $40,903 is greater than what the market rate is for a 4th-year teacher at $39,400, so that teacher will get the 3.5% raise. The next example is a 7th-year teacher. So their current salary is $39,223, and these are real numbers, by the way, no names, but real numbers from our system. With 3.5% on that teacher, it takes them to $40,595. That is greater than the market rate of $40,450. So to get to the $40,450, we're giving 7 years times $350. That's $2,450 that we would be putting on top of the $38,000, the new $38,000 base. However, that person's also going to get the $500 for longevity. So it does boost them up just a little bit more to $41,095, and for that person, it's a total of about a 4.8% increase. The group that we've identified for the market adjustments are listed up there. You'll see right in the middle there, bullets about 2 through 5 are our maintenance, custodians, grounds, skilled maintenance folks, plant foremen. That group is sorely behind as we look at the other competitive rates out there in our neighboring school districts. And last one. So here's an example of that. So maybe a skilled tradesperson may currently be making $15.61 an hour. We multiply that times 3.5%. It's going to take them to $16.16 per hour. The market rate out there right now is about $16.43. So they're going to get an additional 27 cents an hour. That's a total of a 5.25% raise. And I would be happy to entertain any questions.
So I'm just going to clarify some of the things that came up in our work study, in case anyone has questions, that the longevity bonus becomes part of their salary. It is not a stipend. So that does become part of their salary. The other piece we had talked about was, I'm trying to go back to the slide. I don't have them. On the market rate, we are giving more years of experience than some of our neighboring districts. We talked about that.
We are, right. So then, but I did say to you last time that our neighboring districts tend to give a little bit more than the $350 a year. So I would certainly at some point in the future, if money is available, bring back a revision to the hiring formula so that we're giving a little bit more. But they clearly say on their hiring formulas that they'll give up to 6 years of experience.
So we don't give as much, but we allow an extra year.
We do.
So those were some of the questions and highlights that came up during our work study.
President Reese?
Mrs. Whitener?
You know, in work studies, speaking about another issue, and we talked about how many teachers we have and how many employees we have. How many? 1,100, 1,200?
Yeah, between 11 and 1,200.
You know, and I just wanted to bring up the perspective of the whole organization, and you know, we have done some classified increases in the years past, specifically for our bus drivers and maintenance, but we also know we have issues with maintenance and custodians because we're not able to keep them. And it creates not good learning environments and working environments. So, you know, as myself as a board member, we have to look at the whole system here. I think it's you know, genuine to reward everyone who has been with Higley and who has you know, honored us with their time and their commitment and their service. The one piece, and I did bring it up in our work study, is the one piece of those 4 to 7 year teachers. And I hope some people understand that there might be a 4th year or 5th year teacher that has a master's and another teacher doesn't. And so we can't solely base the salary or the increase necessarily on the year. Some people have 15 credits, some people are nationally board certified. And so it's hard when teachers compare salaries and not everyone sees the whole picture. And I know as a board, we had those questions at the work studies. Well, you know, that's hard to swallow, especially that 7th year teacher, if one has the master's and one doesn't, or one's almost going to get a longevity and one doesn't. The only concession that I had, and I had mentioned it earlier, was the longevity. Just me personally as one individual board member, I had just personally felt that I would like to see more on the longevity piece for our teachers compared to the classified. I didn't know if that was an ideological thing, a philosophical thing that you give everyone, whether it was a bus driver or a teacher. That's not for me to decide that for everyone, and that's why we're 4 people on a board. But just, you know, something quick that I just did, if we just if the amount of certified and support, 500 each, that's, for example, if the teachers got 700 and the support got 300, it's the same dollar amount, but meaning there's more towards those certified or teachers versus classified. But I don't know if that's for me to decide. Whether because you're a teacher you work just as hard as, you know, the classified person. And that was just the only topic of conversation and the issue that I had moving forward with this. I would like to have seen more towards the longevity. And that was something that this is new for our district, and I am so glad that so many people were on board with this. And hopefully it's a really good start. And who's to say those longevity pieces can't change with Prop 123, and we don't always hold our breath, but to say that those pieces can't change. I did hear concerns about the jump in the base. You know, we have this little microcosm in the East Valley, and it's you know, it's just pick, here's gonna be the top, here's gonna be the top. And, you know, it's different. We don't have desegregation dollars. We don't have as many Title I dollars. You can go to a Title I district and teachers can make more. And everyone thinks, oh, you're Higley, you're affluent, you've got money, you're rolling in it. Actually, no, we're not. And that's such the ironic piece is there are some pieces that we don't have. And that's hard to swallow because we want the best for our kids. We truly do. And we have the best teachers. And so the balance of creating a working environment that we want our people to stay, the balance of being able to monetarily reward our teachers and staff, and the balance of the limited funds. And let's not forget, we did not have an override for 2 years on top of the cuts that we had made. In addition to we're still about $1,200 below 2008 numbers per student. I mean, that's where we're lacking. So there's pieces here that, yes, I have concerns with, that I've been open with the board and staff and have addressed, but I'm also grateful to be in this position, that we can do this. I really am. I am really grateful for our community and for those who worked hard for the override, and I couldn't imagine not being here in this position right now. So if the board wants to discuss that, you don't have to. I can't force that on anyone, but that was just me personally, and when it came to the longevity bonuses for the teaching and certified positions. But
I appreciate your conversation there, and we did talk a little bit about that in the work study. And with my opinion, I think when we talk about a longevity, we're talking about our entire district, any of our employees, how long they've been here from a longevity standpoint. I do think it's important that our teachers have the opportunity for different pay advancement, and we do have pay for performance for them that not everyone receives specific to our teachers. So I think the way we have it structured, and we're talking longevity, I think we do need to look at our entire district, because we are thanking them in their salary for the amount of time and commitment. The janitor who's here for 15 years, their time is no different than a teacher who's been here 15 years. While their position's different, they've still committed 15 years to our district. So from a longevity standpoint, I think staying consistent when we're looking at their salary for how long they've been here for a particular increase. I agree, looking at other avenues of trying to advance the salary for our teachers is important. I don't think adjusting a longevity bonus based on your position is appropriate.
President Reese, if I just might, that particular piece of the pie, if you will, for longevity, more than 2/3 of it will go to the employees other than support staff. To add up what they will earn is less than 1/3 of that total piece of the pie.
President Reese, we wish there was more.
We do wish there was.
Several of you have heard me say, I mean, push the repeat button. It's not a windfall. And we just stopped. Oh, I like Mrs. Reese's example too. Go ahead.
Which one? The one that we're not broke, we're just poor?
We're not broke anymore.
We're not broke anymore, we're just poor.
Or
So.
But
Yes.
I meaning philosophically, I don't agree. I don't think that's a decision we should be making. I wish there was more to give to the longevity piece. So
Absolutely.
President Reese,
Mr. Little?
I think it'd be helpful to know, because we're allocating override dollars, what the estimated total amount is based on the salary increase.
So I haven't gone down from 2 weeks ago, and I told you I was a little over then, so I still am. It's about $2,087,000. I did prepare for you after that several different scenarios of the teacher hiring formula, because we had estimated those 47 teachers at about 50,000, and just about every which way that I could figure it, including like a hard to fill stipend for a high school foreign language teacher and a master's and 20 years of experience. If we gave them all 20 years, we were still coming out at about 47. So we're lower than that 50,000 that we gave you for those 47 teachers. So I believe we can easily find that money there.
And understandably, it's an estimate. You won't get it till we have all final contracts in. So I would like to say that Ms. Sorensen did a wonderful job, and her staff in breaking this down and allocating the dollars in the best way possible. I agree that there's always more. I think I agree with the longevity a little bit, and trying to understand how to keep our best teachers and our teachers that are committed to Higley. But I do think that Ms. Sorensen did a wonderful job in allocating those dollars in the best and most reasonable and fairest way possible.
Thank you.
I agree. Absolutely. She was blind by numbers. She didn't want to see any more numbers.
Yeah, and the staff back
moved
there
him
right
every
now
which
is
way.
absolutely buried, touching every single employee in the district to make sure that we're accurately capturing all of the years of experience. And literally every single person will have to be calculated individually. So they're on it.
Thank you. And again, this goes back to, again, our community passing the override, our commitment to, as we voted previously, to reduce class sizes, but also our commitment to give an increase for our staff. And it's the longevity piece has been, Mrs. Whitener has been a huge driver of that we need to recognize those who have been with us a little longer. Anyone have any other questions or comments? Okay.
I just wanted to preface too, we will be having a medical benefits conversation. I don't know what that outlook looks like, but hopefully it's positive.
We'll see the responses next week. The insurance committee will be convening to go through all of the proposals that were received, and we'll bring that recommendation to you in the special meeting that you scheduled on March 2nd. The vendor will be here to present what our recommendation is.
One more question. For the hard to fill positions, do you only go up to the 7 years, or that can vary?
It can vary. We take several things into consideration. We really do look at how many other people in that same classification they're going to step over, and by how much they're going to step over them, because that's always going to be a bone of contention for the current staff. We look at how long the position sat vacant. If that's been something we've been trying to fill and gone out recruiting for 1.5 years, 2 years now, then that makes a difference. And we just try to use some standard amounts incrementally from about $500 up to about $2,500 as an additional stipend for that. We've also can go far above the 7 years of experience.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0. 9.6.
Mrs. Reese, President Reese.
Mrs. Whitener.
I move that we approve the 2016-17 contracts and offers at will employment documents.
Support.
And just to clarify that this is the wording of the documents. It is not the actual contracts yet, so just wanted to clarify that. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about the actual language in the contracts?
President Reese, if I may, members of the board, just point your attention to the certified contract. In number 4, we are required each year to state what we project to be the allocations out of Prop 301. And as you know, this year we gave $1,250 in December. We'll give $1,250 in June. So $2,500 there that goes directly to teachers just for their salary. And then this year we will give $2,500 for the performance pay. You will note in the contracts that it says for next year, the 2 allocations in December and June are $1,350. So again, it's not a lot, but it's a little bit there, and we are above our neighbors in our East Valley here with the amount of money that we give per Prop 301. And I might also note that as you look at the base salaries in our neighbor districts, their base salaries include those 2 allocations. So if we took our recommendation of $38,500 and added in, what's $1,350 plus $1,350, $2,700, really our base would be $40,700. So we are more than competitive.
Very nice. Anyone have any other questions or comments on these? That amount increases.
So the pay for performance numbers, right? Do you have that ahead of time? Is that set by, I thought that wasn't determined until like July.
We estimate based on, and Ms. Deuce may be able to jump in, but we estimate based on what we've got over the last couple of years. That's an estimation, but we also have the carryover. So based on what we estimate we're going to get plus the carryover, and we've had some decent amount of carryover the last couple of years, and so
So
we've
you
been
put the
trying to
actual
add-
dollar amount in the contract?
We're required to.
Okay. And so if there's just, meaning extra, depending on the state of economics, that goes carry over into the next year, and then that's to
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0. 9.7.
Make the motion.
Mr. Ratovich is making a motion to establish the eligibility of district employees for fringe benefits for the 2016-17 fiscal year.
Second.
So this was the discussion we did have in work study, and we thank our staff for coming and speaking regarding it. The recommendation for the benefit is that we will grandfather in those who are currently receiving the prorated accrued time, and it would not be offered for new hires that are less than 0.75.
And that would apply to classified, certified, Mrs. Reese, and classified, the recommendation is to have it remain at 0.75 for all benefits, including leave.
Questions, comments? Thank you for your work on that. I think it is a good compromise from when we were trying to catch up and fix what we've done when it was supposed to be changed. And I think it's a great compromise to continue for those who are already receiving it and make the change for future. So if no one has any other questions or comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. 9.8.
Mrs. Reese. President
Mrs.
Reese,
Whitner.
sorry.
You're fine.
I move that the governing board approve the restoration of the athletic and fine arts stipends for the 2016-2017 school year.
Support.
This is also going back to our successful M&O override. I hope our community's hearing. We appreciate them passing the override, and we're using the money as they wanted it directed. So this would reinstate those stipends. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. All right. Future agenda items. Mr. Ratovich.
Yes, I just have a few, President Reese, if you could discuss with Dr. Thomason as far as for work study sessions. One of them was in reference, we mentioned earlier, the specials and how they're, the timeline in reference to the classrooms and how they're in the buildings. They were going to do a presentation about that.
For that, just to clarify, you're looking specifically at those special teachers who travel to more than 2 sites?
Correct. And also probably how we come to that calculation, if we could just let us
Okay.
know where we're at,
Determining
determine
how.
the calculation for these teachers and how we're addressing that.
Because you had mentioned that we have some that are traveling to 4 sites, and you
Correct.
wanted specific information regarding that.
Correct.
Okay. I
Correct.
just wanted to be clear so we can make sure we're
Correct.
gathering the right information.
Sure, and just 2 other things. One, if we could have an update in the future on summer projects, that is going to be taking place in the district sometime in the near future. And the third, our last work study session, we had in reference to where we're going to go in reference to library media specialist, and Dr. Thomason mentioned that they were going to set up a committee and then come back to the board with where we're even going to have a discussion with where we're even going to go with that type of program in the libraries. And if you could set up a timeline on the calendar in reference to when that presentation will take place.
And then my understanding is that we will be bringing the graduation information to the next board meeting for the agenda.
President Reese,
Mrs. Whitener.
I'm not exactly sure what Mr. Wojtowicz was mentioning about summer projects, but it's not an emergency. It can wait just a little bit, but just a little bit more of the specific the bond projects. If there's, I think it would be great for the board to hear, if there's any conversations with SFB, what future bond projects and the maintenance that we're looking at.
Yes, President Reese, members of the board, we did just have a good meeting today with the school facilities board. They came into our district and gave us some direction on what we need to do to get some of our projects taken care of and paid for by the state. So we can bring that information back to you next meeting.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Ms. Reese.
Mr. Little.
I don't know if it has to be an agenda item or maybe just information or something we do in a work study. I do want to think about, now that the salary increase has been approved, sort of a similar treatment like with the 47 new FTEs of keeping an eye on the details. I know that several teachers may feel unfairly treated based on longevity or credentials, or a lower paid teacher is going to see a higher increase than a teacher that's at a higher pay. And so that may seem unfair. So it may seem like a donut hole. I think when you make across the board changes, it's difficult to capture every unique situation that a teacher's in. So I think it would be great for the board to hear any challenges that you're facing as you implement, and try to understand who it's affecting most or least in some fashion. And then I do find it perplexing that we didn't see many teachers here tonight. I would have expected the room to be packed. And teachers, they need to be advocates for their careers. I think that's important to remember, that if there are really changes that are missed and they felt strongly about it, they should have voiced it.
Mrs. Reese, Mr. Little, I did that exact PowerPoint, although there were a couple tweaks in it, but I did do that with our Teachers Association group the day before the last board meeting, before I came into work study with you all. And I made a couple of little changes. I think at that point I had the longevity for 5 years at like 450, and just with shifting a few things around, I was able to get it to 500. So that group did see the presentation and know the proposal prior to even the last work study session.
Yeah, I think it's important for particularly the cabinet and the board to know that this implementation of the salary increase is to achieve a certain strategic objective, and if it's not meeting that objective, we need to revisit.
Perfect. And then Dr. Thomason, I would just like to ask, as an update for our public community, is that we won't be able to seat our 5th board member until April. But I would like the opportunity to meet our nominees. So I know it's been a period of time, and that's because the county superintendent doesn't do additional, they do one additional nomination, what am I looking at? Appointment. That's it. That's the word. Got it.
Training on
the election years. So that's why we're having to wait till April, because I know a lot of people have been asking, when are you getting your 5th board member? Because we've been 4 for a while. And we do have to wait until April for the county superintendent to do that appointment for us. However, we have our 3 nominees, and I would love the opportunity to meet with them, and especially because they can't come on until April, and we're going to be having contracts going, and there's a lot happening. So it would just be nice to have the introduction.
President Reese, members of the board, we did send an email out to them today, inviting them to the remainder of the board meetings, and then also invited them to come in and speak with myself or ask questions in regards to district proceedings.
Perfect. Right. If there's nothing further, 11.0, I move we adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a good evening.
This says here.